order for them to shapeshift, they have to wear the actual pelt, the hide of that animal. Because Yee Naaldlooshii, when you translate it into English, it means by means of it on all fours it goes.
Welcome back to the I Jupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin, and today we have on the wonderful Ryan Paul Tremblay. There's three names. You know, when people have their middle name involved, I always mess those up. I hope he came highly recommended me from my good friend Robert Prever from the Monstrous podcast. Do me a favor, pause this episode, which you're watching now, and go over there and give him a like and subscribe. If you keep finding yourself coming back, do me a favor, like and subscribe to my channel as well. You can also become a member and get some episodes early and a screensaver. You can also do me a favor and go down to the links below and get yourself some merch. I got some new t-shirts over there. I got some new posters and things and the like. So if you do me a favor, go check it out. So if you like it, help me support the show. You can also find me on Rumble. Go ahead and like me over there and follow me over there, and any of your podcasting MP3 areas in which you download and listen to it. That way you can listen to my stuff or, my guests, as well as, deliver your Coke products. Anyhow, with all that out of the way, let's welcome to the I Jupiter, Ryan Paul Tremblay.
Hello. How you doing today, Tom?
I'm doing good. How are you today, man?
I'm doing really well. I'm trying to adjust to the sudden blasts of heat we got in Arizona. It was cold for the longest time, and all of a sudden we get a day that's above 100 degrees, and I'm just going, Mother Nature, make up your mind, dude.
Yeah.
Ease us into this.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm down here on the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. And so it's always hot. We had a couple nice days in the mid 80s, but then it hit 97 today, which is this time of year completely normal. And it goes up to about 110 through May and June. Oh, yeah. So, I understand. I haven't seen like cold weather in 3 years since I've been here. So, yeah, I can imagine.
I'm a little jealous because we had that cold break where it's like it was just nothing but cold nights, cold days, windy as could be. Then all of a sudden the heat's creeping in and it just gets dropped on you. And you're going, what happened? There was no medium. There was no happy medium where it just gradually shifted. It was all sudden. And
you're based in Arizona, correct? Right?
Yes,
right. So I got some friends out there. They go to I think it's called the Mogollon. What's it called? The Mogollon
Rim.
The Mogollon Rim. They're the Arizona Four. Shout out to them. They're I'm having a couple of them come on too and speak with me about various things. Man, do me a favor. Like let people know who you are, and where they can find you, and any things that you're promoting.
Okay, so, I'm Ryan Tremblay. I'm more commonly known as the Wendigo guy, thanks to my extensive studies of the Wendigo. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky a little bit. I don't really go over there too often. X, I don't go over there too often either. So Facebook and Instagram are the best places to get a hold of me. Just look for Ryan Paul Tremblay, and you'll see my stuff. You'll know it's me because you'll see the Wendigo, you'll see Godzilla and all these other monsters, so you found the right guy.
All right. So how did you get started in this? First of all, how old are you, sir?
I am 45 years old, actually.
Me too. 1980, baby. February 15th,
yes.
1980.
All right, October 25th, 1980.
Oh, so I'm a little bit older than you, but yeah, we're good to go. Oh, no, you're going to be 45. You're not 45 quite yet.
Just turned 45 last year, actually. So.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
What am I thinking? Okay. Anyhow,
I've been a monster fan since I was a kid, man. So.
So what got you into it? I mean, you just got you into it, and now it's like you're, the thing that you do on the side, or is it your main?
What happened is, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the Universal monster movies. My dad sat me down to watch the original Dracula, Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, especially Creature from the Black Lagoon. I was fascinated by the Gill Man. And when I watched that movie, I started wondering, could something like that really exist? Could there be some kind of undiscovered creature that people are running into, and we don't know what to call it. We haven't captured it yet. And my dad, he was a Louisiana guy, so he used to tell me about the rougarou. He said when I used to go outside into the woods, he'd be like, "Well, don't let the wood boogers get you." So as a little kid, I didn't really take much into that at first until I got a little older. Then I'm like, "Dad, what are wood boogers?" And he told me Bigfoot. They're Bigfoot, Ryan. And I didn't know what Bigfoot was. I'm like, "What is this Bigfoot you speak of, Dad?" So he showed me the Patterson.
Cool guy.
Yeah, he was a
guy.
really
My dad never talked about it. He was too busy, making ends meet and fixing his truck.
Right. So when I was 8 years old, he sat me down to watch that show with Leonard Nimoy where they showed the Patterson Gimlin film. And that right there, I was just hooked. I was obsessed. I'm like, there's monsters out there and I want to find them. Okay. So that was a big start. And then things like Godzilla, of course, and, Gamera, Ultraman, all these kinds of monsters really geared me towards, finding monsters in real life.
Okay. So you're known as the Wendigo guy. May I ask why?
Okay. So years ago, maybe about 4 years ago now, I started listening to all these different creepypasta channels and different cryptid channels on YouTube. I was hearing about the Wendigo. And I had a feeling that it wasn't correct. I'm sitting there going, well, this information seems made up. So I think I need to get the real story. So I bought the book from Chad Lewis and Kevin Lee Nelson. Best book you're ever going to read on the Wendigo, by the way. Okay. And that hooked me. That really, really hooked me on the Wendigo. So I started reaching out to different members from the different tribes in Canada and from Maine and from all these different places up north, where I started getting the accurate information about the Wendigo. So I decided that was going to be my focus of studies, and I was going to write a book to bring the original stories from the different tribes to the people that actually wanted to know.
No kidding. Okay, if you're a novice like myself, I've heard. I run into a lot of dogmen. I run into a lot of Bigfoot. Down here we have Alooshies and weird things like that, but that you may not know of. And but the Wendigo doesn't come across my purview. But could you maybe just break it down for me? What is a Wendigo in your eyes?
Okay, so according to the northern tribes, the Wendigo is an entity that when a man or a woman breaks certain cultural taboos, the most popular, most well-known is cannibalism. Then they get possessed by this spirit of the Wendigo, and it turns them into a cannibalistic monster. So you go from a human to becoming this pale-skinned, emaciated monster that hungers for human flesh. Now you'll eat other people, but the more you eat, the hungrier you get. So your appetite is never ending. So this is something that's it's feared by the people. Like they don't even like to say the name Wendigo. When I was talking to different people up north, they would refer to it as either the W or the big W or the cannibalistic spirit. They would never use the term Wendigo because they're afraid that if you talk about it too much, it's going to attract its attention and it's going to come.
That's a palpable fear. That's a very palpable fear. If you're running into people that you don't know and they're like, "Oh, the big W," that means there's some validity probably to it.
Absolutely. And the more I started hearing about them and getting stories from them, the more I started sitting back going, "Holy crap, there's something to this." The Wendigo isn't something made up for a movie or video games or creepypastas. There's really something that was out there at one point in time. Now, is it prevalent nowadays where people are seeing Wendigo? Yes and no. That's up to the audience to decide. But I think in the past, they were running into something. To have such an accurate description, a certain origin point to it, how one became Wendigo, and even had ways to stop the transformation of a Wendigo. So to me, that was confirmation. That was validation. That's them going, no, we really did face this thing. So that's what I'm trying to bring to people.
Yeah, so there's also another, I guess you would call it cryptid, Wendigo being a cryptid, I'd imagine. There's one called a crawler or a pale crawler, excuse me. What's the difference between those?
It's interesting because I have a theory that they're one and the same.
Okay.
Because if you look at the way they're described, all right, so both pale crawler and Wendigo are described as emaciated beings that are hairless, very, very thin, okay? They're very savage and very animalistic in their behavior. Really, the only difference between Wendigo and the pale crawlers would be that we don't know the origin of the pale crawlers. So I have to wonder, are the two tied together? And I'll tell you why I think this. I'll tell you why I think this, because, think about it. If you were, someone that was out in the woods and you've never heard of pale crawlers before, you never knew that these things existed, but you ran across one, but you were familiar with Wendigo, then you're going to be like, that's a Wendigo, with the way it's behaving, the way it's chasing you down, the way it's acting like an animal. If you're part of that tribe, especially, you're going to be like, that was a man that was possessed by the Wendigo spirit.
Right, which would be like kind of like if someone said to you like wood booger, like the example you brought up, you're like, well, what is that? I never heard of that. But then someone says a Bigfoot, then you go, okay, because maybe it's a cultural thing or it's a locational, and okay, that's interesting. So you reached out and contacted me. Guys, you can go ahead and do that. It's the Jupiter podcast at gmail.com. And you were like, yeah, it'd be interesting. I think I threw out a feeler on a couple like Facebook pages, and you then contacted me, and that was cool. And you said to me that you possibly had a Dogman encounter or had a Dogman encounter. Would you like to go into that?
Definitely had a Dogman encounter.
Okay.
So about 3 years back, I was house sitting for a friend and his wife. They were going on vacation and they needed somebody to, take care of their property while they were gone. So, being the good friend that I was, I volunteered for that. And what I would do is I had 3 times I'd go check up: morning, evening, and then late at night. Because, in Arizona, you got to go make sure there's no javelina, there's no wildlife invading your backyard to get at your garden or garbage. So that's what I would do. One night I went about maybe midnight, maybe 12:15 at night. And I was going up to his house and I noticed the coyotes were making a lot of noise. They sounded genuinely nervous. And I'm accustomed to hearing coyotes. I hear them every night in Arizona. So I can tell the difference between hunting cries, mating cries, all the good stuff. But this did not sound like a hunting cry or a mating cry. They genuinely sounded scared. They were yipping and they were whining and they were doing the high-pitched cries. And at first I just kind of blew it off. I was like, there's maybe a mountain lion up there or something, or they're fighting or whatever. And so I kept making my way to my friend's house. And as I got to his backyard, because his house was it was right here. And then he had a side entrance. And that's where I would go through as a side entrance, And I noticed there was like some kind of rancid smell. And the best way I can describe this, and I'm sorry if I disgust you or your listeners, but it smelled like feces, urine, body odor, and rotted meat all put together. Just rolled up into one foul package.
Nice little soup there.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there going, did something die? What the hell is that smell, man? So again, I blew it off, and as I'm walking into the back, it's pitch black in his backyard, okay? But I happen to notice there's some kind of movement. You know how when you're looking at the shadows and there's something in those shadows, you can kind of tell something's there? Okay, so with that, I was like, well, there's somebody there, so I thought maybe it was a homeless guy that was wandering into the backyard. So me being only 5'10" and a half, I, kind of puffed up like that little puffer fish. I'm holding my arms out and puffing my chest. And I'm just like, hey. And at first there's nothing, no sound, no noises or anything like that. So it goes quiet for maybe about 30, 40 seconds. Okay. And silence is always scary at night. So when you get that silence, you're kind of going, oh, what's going on here? But then I heard the rustling again. So I'm like, all right, there's somebody in this yard and I got to clear them out. So again, I yell out at the top of my lungs, hey. Well, this time it wasn't quiet. I hear this deep, deep growl that just like passed through my chest. It was rattling my bones. I could feel it in my lungs. I could feel it in my heart. I could feel my bones just going. So I stopped. I'm like, what the hell was that? It's kind of spooked out. So I'm like, should I proceed forward or, what do I do? So I slowly was edging forward. And as I did so, the security lights in the back came on. Well, when those lights came on, I was looking at something that looked just like a hyena. This thing was staring at me. Now I'm staring at it. And it's, I'm making eye contact with this thing. And its eyes are glowing bright, bright amber. So
glowing
I know.
Or reflecting?
Reflecting. It's reflecting the light, but it looked like they were glowing in the, in the light.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself silently, there's no hyenas in Arizona. What the hell am I even looking at? And I'm in a trance staring at this thing. And suddenly it charges forward on its knuckles. I can see its knuckles hitting the ground as it's running forward. And it goes maybe about maybe 5 or 6 feet, stops on a dime. Like there was no sound when it stopped. It just suddenly stopped so perfectly smooth and quiet. And it's still staring at me. So this thing's ears are going up and down. Its head is tilting side to side like a dog does when it's curious. And so I deviated my eye contact. I'm like, if this is a predator, the worst thing you can do is stare it in the eyes. They take it as a challenge. So I kind of deviated my eyes a bit so I could still keep it in my line of sight, but not be looking directly at it. Mm-hmm. And so it's standing there staring, and all of a sudden it reaches up to a branch. I see its arm go up. I see its fingers wrap around the branch. And as it pulls itself up, I hear a loud pop. And so it's staring at me. It's just looking right at me. And I hear like kind of a growl coming from it, a soft growl. So I don't know how much time passed, maybe 3-4 minutes, maybe. It starts to turn around. And as it's turning around, it kind of looks over its shoulder at me to make sure I'm not following. And I see it go up the hill and then down the hill into the riverbed. And once that thing was out of sight, Tom, man, I had rocket boosters in my butt. I was
Yeah.
taking up the back stairs. I got my friend's house. I'm locking his doors. I'm bolting his windows. I'm going through his drawers, getting the biggest, sharpest knife that I can find. And I
Right.
called my friend up and I was like, yo, you know what? You forgot to tell me something when I said I would house sit for you. There was a damn hyena in your backyard. And he's quiet for a minute. He goes, Ryan, there's no hyenas in Arizona. You know this. And so I told him, yes, I do know this, but I just saw something just like a hyena in your backyard. I saw something. It was there. So what the hell was it? So he came home the next day and we went to the back and you could see the scuff marks, the claw marks in the gravel from where it had been. So right when he saw that, he's like, you did see something, but what was it? That's when I started reading Linda Godfrey's books. And I learned that other people were seeing these hyena types. So I knew it was that hyena type dogman.
Okay. I mean, like, so, what did you feel? I mean, this thing growls at you and then it bluff charges you. I mean, what were you feeling, dude?
I was terrified. I thought that maybe this thing was going to, just charge the rest of the way, or it was going to try to corner me, or maybe it was distracting me because there was another one behind me.
Right.
So I didn't really know what to do. I was unarmed. I didn't have anything I could use. And it was about 15 feet away.
So when it's, so you said it looks like a hyena. So you say when it grabs a branch and it pulls itself up, about how tall was it?
I'd say about 6 feet tall.
About 6 feet tall.
I don't know if maybe it was stretching itself out to try and make itself look more.
Is there imposing. Like a wooded area behind the house, or an open area behind the house, or was it like a cul-de-sac? Yeah. Where was
he had trees? He had all these trees in his backyard, and to the side was a path that led up the hill and down the hill that led into the riverbed, the washway where the storms go. So that thing went up that hill and went down the hill into the riverbed. So I was like, there was something there, but yeah, I got confirmation because I even spoke to Linda Godfrey, may she rest in peace, before she died. I reached out and I was like, this is what I saw. And I had a picture I had drawn of it at the time. And she was like, you saw the hyena type dogman. A lot of people have seen that, but it doesn't go reported.
I haven't heard the hyena yet. I've heard of the traditional, I guess you would say, was the long nose, more like a
werewolf kind.
Like a werewolf kind, or the what is it called, a German Shepherd kind, to give people a little bit.
Yes. But
I've also heard of from B Moss, if you know B Moss. She's seen one that looked like kind of like a boxer, or like a snout, like a snub nose one. The way I described it to her was like Ike from Tom and Jerry, but it was, instead of being whatever he is, gray or whatever, this was black with blue eyes. With blue eyes. So
interesting.
That's. So you're just so matter of factly about that. How long ago was this?
It was about 3 years ago now. So I've come to terms with it. It was something that when it first happened, I kept wondering, was I crazy? Did I see something else and I'm just misidentifying this? But the more I thought about it, I was like, no, this is what I saw, because, I'm so used to being around animals. I volunteered at a zoo for a long time. So I've seen wolves, I've seen coyotes, I've seen foxes, and I've seen hyenas. So I know a hyena when I see one. So it was something that I had to come to terms with.
Right. The 6 foot tall hyena, the bluff charges you in your friend's house. That's enough for me. So it's been 3 years since this happened. And I know my initial impression of you, and hopefully I'm correct, is that you dig this stuff. You're into it. Okay. So you've seen this, you've read the book, you've actually contacted the person. Mm-hmm. What is your, if you were to postulate, what would you say this is?
I toggle between different theories. For a while, I thought maybe they were completely flesh and blood. But as I heard other stories, I'm kind of like, well, is there an interdimensional slip to these things? Because people talk about them being bulletproof or just disappearing, like cloaking or vanishing before plain sight, So I got to wonder what's really going on. Okay. Now, thanks to Kenny Thibodeau and Robert Prevost, I kind of wonder if it's like a relic species of ancient hyena that somehow evolved to stand upright. So to tell you I have the answers and I know for sure what they are, I'd be lying to you if I said that.
Of course. That's, that I kind of inferred it with postulation, or whatever that word is, the infinitive form of that verb.
Right.
You have to understand, I'm down here in Mexico, so I'm working on my third language. And sometimes I suck at English again.
Trust me. I have those days too where I'll go to say something or type something. I'm like, man, words are hard.
So tell me about your podcasting. What do you do? Who do you just, you talk with Robert? Do you have your own? What kind of podcasting do you do?
I've been on so many different shows. I've been on Paranormal Portal, Paranormal Odyssey. I run the gamut. You know, if you name a podcast, I've probably been on it at some point. I like to sit down with people and discuss my research and the things that I'm really into to kind of spread the knowledge and the awareness of stuff. So, you know, I don't really limit myself to just one show.
Okay, so well, let's go ahead and chew on the rag here a little bit. Let's say you're saying that this is possibly some type of branch. When you say branches and you're talking about things of that nature, you're talking about, you know, Darwin's theory of relativity, which I've actually read that book, the first version, I think 1859, a long time ago, but I have read it,
Right?
Because, you know, I needed to know, you know, like the actual, and he's named on it, but his partner, which his name eludes me at the moment, I think he was a little more to do with it than most people realize. So if we're speaking of evolution, you're thinking that there's some type of selective pressure that maybe through continental drift that these things were then together at one point. And, you know, there's like, you know, I think there's crustaceans in Florida or things in Florida that you can also find on that on the northwest African coast. So maybe through that there's a separation, then time kind of leads into, is that what you're trying to like maybe head towards?
I think it's possible. I really do, because as I did research, I learned that even wolves, they can stand on their hind legs for a brief time, and they'll do this when they're looking for prey. You know, so I kind of wonder if maybe when they get bipedal, they go from the quadrupedal position to the bipedal position. This is a way of them getting a better view of something. You know, if they're trying to really see what's going on, or it could even be an intimidation tactic. You know, that when they see a human, they're not sure what to do, so they try to intimidate them to get them to run away. And maybe standing up on two legs is what they do it with. You know, I don't know. I really don't. Until I can actually meet that hyena dog man again and say, hey, I got some questions. You know, I'm just going to theorize and wonder.
Do you go out there to your friend's house and kind of snoop around?
I used to. I was in a different town when I lived in a different town in Arizona. I used to actually go to the riverbed, the washway that was in the back of his property. And I had to walk for miles. I mean, like 3-4 miles at a time, looking for different things, you know.
And this is just connected to the bush, like it just goes out into open country, or
okay. Oh yeah, it goes right across all of Arizona. That's the cool thing about the washway, is I'm not even sure where it starts, but it runs through the town that I lived in. It goes down through Tucson, Phoenix, Flagstaff. It branches off in all these different directions. So there's plenty of space that something could hide down in that riverbed. And there's plenty of game, because when I was down there, I've seen javelina, I've seen quail, jackrabbits, I've seen turkey, I've seen deer. So there's plenty of things they could eat down there.
Right. Well, why would it be? Okay, so there's that type of dog, man. Then there's the other ones that look like wolves. That is more or less more common. I actually have heard that podcast when the gentleman was, I think he was in Michigan or something of nature, and he was hunting and he's seen one and he shot it, and then like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like, and he goes, I know I hit it. You know what I mean? So if you have they're both doing the same things, at least from the eyewitness reports, that they're kind of standing up on two legs, they kind of growl. But now there's ones, you know, there's ones that look like the hyenas that you were mentioning, and then these. Are you saying that maybe they have a common ancestor?
They might. I think it's possible that there's something that they originated from, and they just took different paths of evolution as time went on. You know, another theory that I have pertaining to Dogman is thought forms. How familiar are you with toplets?
Toplets I think a toplet is something when you think about it or you talk about it enough, it actually turns into existence. Is this correct?
Exactly. Now, think about, you know, current day. People are obsessed with cryptids, Bigfoot, Mothman, Dogman. All these monsters are super popular, not just with people our age, but kids, you know, and all these people think about it. So when you think
more
about
common, yes, for sure.
Yeah, it's something like manifesting. You know, people think about it often enough. The energy has to go somewhere. So are they manifesting these things? And that's why some of them see the bulletproof ones, the ones that, you know, disappear while they're still looking at it. I mean, it's a question that needs to be examined. That's my book anyway.
Okay, so I mean, I know Robert. He's very scientific in the ways he goes about things, and which I appreciate too, because I enjoy all. You know, there's people who go very spiritual. They'll go, you know, Bigfoot are, you know, the Nephilim, and that's fine too, because nobody knows. So let's get it all out there, and I talk to everyone, so it's important to me. So what would you say? I mean, because you know, you also hear, I'm sure you probably heard by now that these are interdimensional beings, because I have had people on who have seen portals. And things of that nature. Who's to say that something like this can't go between the two?
Right. I mean, it possibly could. It really, really could. To say that it can't, that there's no such thing as the woo, as people put it. That's being really just, I don't know, that's being stubborn, and that's
Yes.
limiting yourself to one train of thought. And when you're trying to answer mysteries, you can't just commit yourself to one thought process. You have to look outside the box. You have to examine what people are seeing, what they're hearing, even what they're smelling. I mean, people smell this
Yes.
foul odor sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes people hear like a dumpster being dropped from the sky, and then they see a big
Yes.
bird.
Oh my God, dude. That one I haven't heard. I've heard about this, like a steel door being pulled across concrete.
There you go. There's another example.
I've heard
If
of that
enough
too.
people are hearing this, we can't just outright dismiss it and say, "Oh no, that doesn't happen."
Yeah.
We can't. We have to think about what would cause that.
Yeah, I think what happens, Ryan, is that people when they say it's all woo or it's all flesh and blood, which is these camp things that humans love that. It's human nature to be that way. But I think it stems from, like, a lot of these people are, when they have their experience, right? Everyone's experience is a little different, but they're also similar. This is why we have this through line. It even has a name, Dogman, which is a weird name. I don't really like it so much, to be honest with you. I think werewolf is much cooler, but it's not quite the same, according to, you know what I mean? It's a lichen nonetheless. But I think what happens is that these people, they're having their experience. It's life altering, life changing, and they seen what they saw and they go, no, this thing, peed on the tree. This thing, I seen it bite this, or it had blood in its mouth. How could it not be this? And then you'll have people who see like orbs and UFOs, and they'll also see a Dogman. So I think that's what happens, and a lot of times I think people need to step back and realize that, yes, although their encounter is very important, and we're trying to gather this information, that other people have different ones, and we should be a little more open to listening to them as well.
Right. I think people like to dismiss things like that because it's outside their norm. It makes them have to think extra hard. And I'm sorry, but when you're trying to answer mysteries, you're going to have to think extra hard. You're going to have to, step outside that comfort zone. You're going to have to look into the details. You can't just ignore details. You can't cherry pick them, take away what you like and throw away what you don't. That's not how you get answers. Okay.
Right.
Would a cop do that when he's investigating a murder or something like that? No.
Or no, of course not. Either one. Yeah, It's one of those things. We're trying to piece this together. That's kind of what I mean. I love, I enjoy, there's people who say, I haven't gone back in the forest, and I just can't do it. And then I was like, wow. And he goes, I was a hunter my whole life. And then, then through the process of talking with me, some people have actually gone back into the forest. And then I'm I'm happy for that they can do that. But that's how traumatic this is, people. This is how crazy it can be when you're seeing something that's not supposed to exist, and then try to contextualize that in this society we now live in. It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing to do.
It is. I don't think it's as difficult as people make it out to be, though. I mean, people believe in Santa Claus. They believe in the Easter Bunny and things like that. Is that really so different from believing in something interdimensional? I don't think it is. I think it's stubborn pride where it's, I don't want to seem crazy. I don't want to seem insane. Well, I mean, the whole topic we're talking about, Tom, it's woo anyway. We're talking about werewolves. We're talking about Bigfoot. We're talking about ghosts, UFOs. It's woo anyway. It's way out of the ordinary, so open yourself up.
Here's a funny thing, though. I was thinking about it. I have plenty of friends now. I call them friends, and they do all their own, the research and going out and trying to figure, and I was thinking, if I had to see any of these cryptids, which one would I choose to see? And for me, it would have to be Bigfoot, because the other two literally scare the crap out of me. They just do. Because I could imagine seeing that. That's what it was getting me. You were just so nonchalant about it. I'd be like, man, I had to go see a therapist and get a new change of shorts. And,
what I think helped with that, though, is I got real heavy into the indigenous folklore.
Okay.
And, I've been around different reservations. I've talked to different people from different tribes, and I've experienced things that I can't say were normal. Okay. It's something that there's really strange. It's things that I'm going, wait a minute, did that really just happen? Because I mean, if that just happened, that's not normal. That's supernatural or paranormal. So my mind is more open. I'm not the guy that's going to be like, oh, no, that's not possible because I say so. No, I'll hear you out, and I'll probably support what you have to say if it's spiritual or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's very important to do so, man. I think a lot of people need to. It's kind of the mentality. Like, I'm a metalhead. I listen to a lot of metal music. I mean, my whole life I play
Megadeth, baby.
Well, and that's my point. Where you have to be open. I think they're more technically sound than most bands, and I do love the way they put their things together and their arrangements. But I'd rather listen to old Metallica. I'd
Yes.
rather just listen to that groove, that feel, that they have a really interesting, it's unique. And although I do find, just for the metalheads only, I find, Dave Mustaine to be technically better. I don't know if he's better than Kirk Hammett. It's close, but Dave can play a lead and sing at the same time while looking up into outer space.
I mean, he used to be part of Metallica. Dave was part of it till they kicked him out. So
he wrote those songs to kill them all.
Yeah,
Like I think Metallica probably wouldn't exist without Dave Mustaine.
You're probably right. Yeah,
that guitar style with the spider chords and all the things that he.
Yep.
I'm a big metalhead dude.
And, I would agree with you. I would agree with you, though. I mean, like some of the events I've had, like I was talking to someone else about the Wendigo one time, and I was playing around. I was joking because the host asked me, "Well, you're in Arizona, so would you be in trouble with the Wendigo at all?" And I was just playing. I was like, "Nah, man, Wendigo doesn't want this smoke. It doesn't want to come down to this heat. It doesn't want to mess with Arizona."
I'm standing on business down here in Arizona,
right? So as I'm looking out the window, this is where it gets really creepy, though, Tom. As I'm looking out the window, it's starting to snow. Like fat snowflakes are falling and gathering on the ground. I'm sitting there wide-eyed going, I won't do that again.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
it does snow occasionally in Arizona. I do know this.
Not very often, though. So when it started snowing, just as I was talking trash about the Wendigo, I'm going, oh, I'm not going to do that again. Oh, boy.
So is this because that Bigfoot is found in many, you can basically go through, the Cherokee, the Navajo, any indigenous, peoples of the United States as well as Canada and Mexico, even down here, they got they have a form of the skinwalker. They call it can't think of it right
Yee
now.
Naaldlooshii.
And Naaldlooshii is something else. Naaldlooshii, it's another one. I can't think of the name of it, but it's someone actually seen. We had our first dogman. What would you call it? Sighting here. About 3 hours away from me. Excuse me, 2.5. And then in the comments below, they were saying, no, I've seen him here in the town. So that's 15 minutes away from me here in Mexico.
Nice.
What was my point? What the hell's my point? I don't know where my point was. But to get back to the Megadeth Metallica reference, it's like that's what I'm trying to say. Is like they're both great bands and they both have something to offer. Both of these types of theories and ideas have something to offer, and to say I'm only going to listen to the band that plays the Flesh and Blood, or I'm only going to listen to the woo Megadeth, then you're going to miss out on so much of what this is. It's a true and utter mystery.
Absolutely.
It's not the final frontier, but it may be connected to the final frontier.
It's
our consciousness.
Pretty close, I would think. I mean, honestly, like I'm always telling people, there's not going to be one person that answers all these mysteries. It's going to take a group effort, a community effort. So that means we have to work together. We may not agree on all parts, but we have to actually be arm in arm and be open to actually listening to what other people have, other theories, other ideas, other possibilities. We can't sit there and be like, oh, because it's unusual, it doesn't happen. How do we know? Right. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
What do you find interesting about, say, for example, Sasquatch or Bigfoot? What is like intrigued you about it, other than it being looking for the most part like a large, bipedal primate? What about it has struck you?
What got me was that every single tribe, be it up here in the States or in Canada or across the globe, they all have a name for it. They all have stories that go with it. So to me, that's kind of confirmation for me, Tom. When I read all these stories and I sat and talked to different tribal members, and they all told me different renditions that they have for Bigfoot, that was confirmation. That was validation saying, no, Bigfoot isn't a question. Bigfoot's out there. The only question about Bigfoot is, where is he?
Yeah. Yeah. To quote Mitch Hedberg, he's maybe Bigfoot is blurry. And that's the reason no one can get a good picture of him. He's blurry. So
maybe he's hiding because he's like, people suck. Who knows? I mean,
which is extra really scary because that means there's an out of focus monster in the woods.
Right? He's all fuzzy.
Yeah. So you said that you might have had an encounter with Bigfoot. I think that was something we spoke about.
Yeah. I did. I mean, I'm pretty much convinced it was a Bigfoot because there's not something that tall that I can think of. But I was ghost hunting of all things with a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
And we were out on this plain, and it had had mountains around it, had hills and everything, and it was dark. It was maybe like 2 or 3 in the morning, so it was super, super dark. It was me, him, and his pit bull, and he had this big burly pit bull that wasn't afraid of anything. You could point a gun at this dog, and it's just whine at you. So we're doing the ghost hunting thing, and I got this smart idea. I was like, well, let's see if there's any Bigfoot in the area. I played the Ohio Howl, and if you haven't heard that, you have heard that one.
Yes,
I can tell by your reaction. Okay, so what I did is like I would play it, I'd pause, wait maybe about 2 minutes, play it again, pause, play it again, pause. About the fourth time, we heard what sounded like heavy footfalls behind us. Now, my friend was right next to me. His dog is right between us. But we hear this like, so it was something heavy. And I'm like, yo, there's something out there. And all of a sudden we hear this whoop, whoop, whoop. And, Bigfoot, it makes the whooping calls. So we got our flashlights. And as we're scanning the area around us, we get to this collection of bushes that were maybe about 8-9 feet tall. We see some eyes looking back at us, reflecting the light. And as the light hit it, it ducked down behind the bush.
How high up were the eyes?
Probably about 8.5 feet, maybe about 8.5 feet. And they were blinking. You could see them blinking. Like it was bright, then it goes dark, then it was bright, then dark. So it was blinking at us. Okay. And his dog, suddenly her tail's between her legs, her ears are back, and she's trying to walk off without us.
Right.
And my friend was a big dude, and he was armed. He even got nervous. He was like, whatever's out there, I don't like the feeling of this. It's bigger than we are, so we should probably go. I agreed, so we started walking the opposite direction to go down the hill. And as we're walking, we're getting rocks thrown at us from behind. And you can hear them just hitting the pathway beside us. And we hear that whoop, whoop.
So it's like telling you.
Yeah, it was like, get the hell out of my turf, man, and leave. I don't like you. So we walked.
What were you doing in the woods? You were ghost hunting in the forest or in the field?
In the desert. In the desert, yeah.
What were you doing? Why were you in the middle of? Because normally, I'm just, I'm asking a question. I'm interested, but normally, it's like a location. It's normally in a house, or it's maybe in a cemetery, or maybe there's, there's certain places like I think there's a Devil's Circle in Georgia. There's a couple places that people go outside. But why were you out in the, in the elements?
There's a story to that. So about 2 or 3 weeks before my friend came down to visit to go ghost hunting, I was out with my dog Duke. I take him everywhere I go. He's my early warning system, right? It was maybe about 9 o'clock at night that he and I were heading home. I started getting really, really cold. All right. Now in Arizona, you don't get super, super cold like that. It doesn't just shift from warm to super cold. And as I was getting colder, I heard kids. I heard the sound of kids' laughter.
Oh, God. It's the scariest goddamn thing, dude. I'm sorry.
It gets worse, though. It gets worse. Well, I'm looking around and, I'm trying to see if anybody's there. I'm all, hello, hello. Nobody's answering me. And each time I would say hello, the voices would stop. But as I started walking again, I'd hear that laughter, the children's laughter. So I stopped one final time, and I swear to God, Tom, it sounded like a group of people running at me all at the same time while laughing. So I heard that.
Oh my God, dude!
Yeah. So
that's
dude,
scarier than the dog man to me, dude. Because
my dog Duke ended up running. He's running ahead of me. He never takes off on me, Tom. He will stick with me even if there's a grizzly bear coming at me. He'll be in front of me trying to protect me. He whined and he took off up that hill like his butt was on fire. So, I followed him and I called my friend and I told him, I heard kids in the desert, but there was no kids there. So him being one of those ghost guys, he was like, well, let me come out there and see if we can find anything. So that's why we were out there. He wanted to see if he could find any ghost evidence. And while we were doing that, we had a possible Bigfoot encounter.
So let me get this straight. So now that we know there's ghost guys. Okay. There's also, Bigfoot dudes.
Yep.
And then we have you. We have
the
Wendigo guy. It's very funny.
Yep.
You were in the process of writing a book, and you said you're collecting stories from these native people.
Yes, I'm writing 2 different books, actually. The first one is going to be the oral traditions and the history behind the Wendigo. And that one's going to be it's going to be a dark and scary thing to read. So I wouldn't advise anybody to read it, but when they write it themselves. The second one is going to be based entirely on the Yee Naaldlooshii, the Skinwalkers.
Yee Naaldlooshii, the Skinwalkers. Okay, what can you tell me about Skinwalkers?
So what the Skinwalkers are, the Yee Naaldlooshii, they're medicine men of the Navajo tribe, the Dene tribe, that rather than using their medicinal powers for good, they decide to cause chaos and strife and death amongst their own tribe. And these things are really, really bad. Skinwalkers can possess animals. They can possess other people just by looking in their eyes. Once you look a Skinwalker in the eye, that's it. He or she has a hold on you. You're going to do whatever it wants you to do. They can shapeshift into coyotes, bears, mountain lions, foxes.
Okay, that's called the Nahual. That's what they call it down here, the Nahual.
It's very similar. Yes, very, very similar. And in Arizona, it's Navajo country. We have plenty of Navajo here, so I was able to reach out to some of them and get in contact with them. And at first they were very reluctant to talk to me about it. And rightfully so, because again, like the Wendigo, they don't like to talk about the Yee Naaldlooshii. It's not something they're comfortable talking about. But once I explained what my mission was, I wanted the real stories, not the creepypasta stories, not the horror movie stories, but the real, genuine stories from their tribe. They slowly started to agree, and they started sharing stories with me, telling me where they came from, where they originated from, how to stop them, what to look for. So I got a lot that I'm going to be putting into that book. It's been years, literally years I've been doing this.
Okay. Are the people that you interviewed, the Navajo, are they running into this Skinwalker on a regular basis?
Yes. It's something that is still prevalent. People say, oh, Skinwalkers don't exist anymore. Well, that's not really true, because there's always going to be medicine men. As long as you have a tribe, there's a medicine man. As long as you have a medicine man, there's always a chance that he's going to go rogue and become the Yee Naaldlooshii.
Wow. So medicine man is kind of like just another name for, what do they call them in Siberia? What do they call those people? The people who do the ayahuasca ceremonies? I can't think of it right now. It's another name. There's another name for it. I can't think of it right now, but because they do, as far as I understand, because I'm trying to, because people always, because I like to do like a lot about psychedelics on the show. I've read a lot of books,
right,
and I've partaken in a couple myself, because I find it to be to direct contact with the other, whatever the hell that is. Right? Fine with me. But if you can connect those, because we know, like in a lot of like dimey something or other, they mix in dimethyltryptamine, DMT.
Mm-hmm.
And they get in connect with the other. And if there's some type of tradition of medicine men within each one of these, particular group nations, these people nations, then there's some type of connection there too. So like I try to, because a lot of times, I don't get much views on those, because most people are looking for, the wow, and the drool dripped out of its mouth, and they grabbed marbles and threw them at me, and what I mean, like that,
right?
That like that.
The horror
drama-based stories.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily search for those. I like to search for whatever I find. And that's what it's about. But why couldn't, like, if these medicine men doing that, and they're going between worlds, guys, these are true worlds that exist, and all you have to do, I'm not saying take it, YouTube, I'm not saying take them, but the possibility exists that instead of doing like Kundalini yoga and do that for 25 years and have an out-of-body experience after your 20th year, you can take this in a safe setting, possibly not, and really experience that. So they're jumping between worlds, and then they run into something over there, like Terrence McKenna called it, self-transforming machine elves.
Yeah.
There's the Mayan girlfriend right there.
Yep. I see her passing by.
Yeah, she's Mayan.
Very nice.
So, yeah, and so there's that connection, guys. Like if these things can come from another world, there's another world that you can actually see and experience that is not the same.
Right.
So I guess my question would be, dude, like, because I'm kind of rambling here at the moment, is what is the process of them jumping over? Is there some type of like, solicitation, or they're like, hey, if you do this, or is this some kind of like deal with the devil or something?
Now we're going to get really, really dark. So I hope there's no kids listening to this.
Yeah, right, so there's certain words you can't say, but other than that, we should be good.
Right. In order for a medicine man or medicine woman to become Yee Naaldlooshii, he or she has to select somebody that they love very much, be it their mother, father, grandparents, child. They have to take them out to the desert, and they commit a very brutal, the one they love.
Okay.
And what that is,
those are the two words I actually have to take out.
Edit those out. But
let me look at my timestamp, 43:54.
But yeah, I mean, in order to do that, they, then they have to take that body, and they commit some heinous acts. I'm not going to get into what they do exactly, because it's gross.
No, that's not important. That's not important. I guess I'm not trying to cut you off or be rude or anything, but like, what entices them to do that action? Is there
selfishness? It's pretty much they realize they have this great and tremendous power that they could use, and it's almost like, I like to compare it to the Jedi and Sith from Star Wars. Okay, you got all these abilities that you could either use to be a good person, you could help people with it, but then there's those people that have it inside of them where they become greedy and they become selfish, and they realize with those powers they can do what they want, they can get away with it because they have certain abilities, and nobody can really do anything to stop them. So they decide I'm going to follow the dark path because it's all about me. It's not about my tribe. It's about me and what I want, and what I need. So I'm going to oppose anyone that is against me, and I'm going to cause chaos and cause mischief and death in their life so they leave me alone. That's what causes them.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that would be one way of saying it, but there could be like, I don't know how far you go into that either. I guess I can ask you is like, there's some really dark in this world. There, people love to throw around the word demonic, and I don't. And I think it should only be used in certain situations. That's my.
I agree. I agree with that.
But for someone to know, okay, I'm a medicine man. It's in me. It's innate. These things are happening to me. It's part of my tradition. These are what the people are telling me, and that. I feel. Welcome to Mexico. I feel that there should be some type of there's probably some type of like something calling like something evil saying come this direction and I'll show you the dark path. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just my.
I think that kind of ties into greed, because like they see those before them that, they achieve some kind of power and they're like, I want that power for myself. I want to be able to make people afraid of me. I want people to be scared of my presence. And I think, human nature, we kind of have that where any kind of power can corrupt you. It doesn't matter what kind of power it is. It does somehow corrupt some people. And I think, with this shape-shifting and the medicinal knowledge, that too corrupted people along the way.
Okay, so then what's as you were told, the next process after you do this heinous act and there's some that you can't mention, then something happens. What happens to them?
So then they meet up with the other Yee Naaldlooshii, usually in a secret cave that's been preordained by the Yee Naaldlooshii, and they'll do chants, they'll do ceremonies, and that gives them the powers that they need. In order for them to they will select the animal, wear the actual pelt, the hide of that animal. Because Yee Naaldlooshii, when you translate it into English, it means by means of it on all fours it goes. So they have to wear the hide of the bear, the coyote, or even the feathers from an eagle or whatever in order to shapeshift into that animal.
Okay. That's wow. And then is there other than the people being afraid of this, and the regular people, I guess you would say, in the tribe, what is the the negatives for the person who decides to do that?
Well, they die pretty quickly. It takes that taxation on their body where, the more power they use, the quicker they age, so it's going to kill them eventually. And they know this, they know the power is going to corrupt your body. It's going to take its toll on you, and they still use it. That's how power hungry they are, and that's kind of sad because something's going to hurt you. It's going to harm you, and you still do it.
Okay.
And it makes you question, well, why would you do it?
Yeah. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
What are some of the things that are telling you about like what is a normal or a how would you say a common I can't think of the word. You said it like 45 times and I still can't remember the word. Skinwalker encounter. What is that like normally?
Normally, it's something that's very psychological. Okay, so the skinwalker will usually go after a victim and do things to call he or she out. They'll use the voice of a loved one of their intended victim, and they'll make it seem like someone's in peril. They'll cry like a baby. And once they get them out there, they'll try to stare them right in the eyes, because by staring a Yee Naaldlooshii in the eyes, you become its pawn. Yeah, you become its pawn where it can control your thoughts, it controls your movement. So you're essentially a puppet. But if that doesn't work, they will torment you endlessly. They'll make your crops fail. They'll make you get sick. They have this thing called corpse powder. And what that is they dig up the graves of children from the tribe, most notably like twins or an infant that died of, or an infant that died at a very young age, and they'll grind up the bones, they'll grind up the skin, and if they blow the corpse powder into your face or onto your being, it'll cause you to get very, very sick, and you'll start to wither away. Slowly but gradually, it'll start to wither away.
It almost sounds like a witch.
It is. It actually is. It's a Navajo witch, essentially.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like something a witch would do. Are they're finding like freshly redug graves? Mm-hmm. What's the word I'm looking for? The word when they take the body out. I can't think of the word. Exhumed. Freshly exhumed. Yes. They're finding these on the reservations. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. They do find this. They do find evidence to suggest that Yee Naaldlooshii are still a thing. So it's not something that people should mess with. I see a lot of these TikTokers and Instagram people saying, "Oh, I'm hunting the Skinwalker," and I always wonder, well, what are you going to do if you find
it? Yeah.
Say you're looking for it and you're calling it out and you're saying Yee Naaldlooshii and you're trying to draw its attention. What are you going to do if it, pops up, says you were looking for me? Here I am. What are you going to do? Are you going to run away?
And this is only found. So you're saying it's Yee Naaldlooshii word. This is a Navajo word, right?
Yes, it's Dene. Yeah, Navajo Dene.
And you have been studying the language?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Studying what I study, it's incredibly important to understand the language. You can't just look through a book and be like, well, I think it's pronounced this way. You got to talk to different tribal members. Like one of the best resources I've ever had is William Nighthawk.
The Wendigo guy. Okay,
yeah.
You are the Wendigo
William
guy.
Nighthawk. Right. You know him. You know William Nighthawk. He's a Lakota. So I've gone to him and I've asked him stuff about Bigfoot, about Dogman, Skinwalkers, the Raven Mocker, and he's taught me some of the language as well. And I got other friends who, they're from indigenous tribes. They've taught me the language as well.
Okay, what is a raven? What'd you call that? A raven talker?
The Raven Mocker. Oh boy, that one's
what's that?
Okay, so the Raven Mocker, the Kalanu Akariski, is a Cherokee legend. Okay, and what the Raven Mocker is when somebody is sick or dying, this entity comes after them and it's trying to eat their heart. It wants their energy, and it's a very nasty thing. It'll show up as a bird, sometimes like a raven, or it'll look like an old woman or an old man, or sometimes it shows up as an old man or woman with raven wings, okay? And this thing will abuse its intended victim. It'll cause nightmares. It'll cause seizures. It'll make them even sicker than they already are. And it's always trying to hurry up their death so it can eat the heart without even piercing the chest.
Whoa, and this is Cherokee?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so... Every tribe has something like that, don't they? It's so incredible. Like we come over here, not we, but our ancestors, Northern European ancestry, and it just wreak havoc and do a lot of things that they shouldn't have been doing. I can't say the K word.
Cherokee have their own form of Bigfoot, the Sukalu, the Lord of the Hunt. So they have that. They have a version of Dogman, the Ulanga Dogala.
Wow, you're speaking these. I mean, I speak German. I'm full. I can. I'm fluent in German and English, and then I'm learning Spanish. You're over there learning these ancient languages.
It's important to me. I didn't want to just study the entities and the creatures in there. I actually have a great love for all the tribes. I adore the tribes. I have some indigenous people in me. I'm from Canada, so we have Cree in our bloodline. So it's part of my tradition too. And I absolutely adore the people, and I want to show that proper respect. So when I do these books, I can use their terminology, their word, their tongue, and relay it to the people reading these books.
Right. This was tripping me out. Like, is there anything like not surprising about a Skinwalker?
Not really. I mean, they're bad news altogether. And to get rid of one, it's incredibly hard to get rid of one. You have to either contact another medicine man who can do blessings and try to get rid of it, or you have to learn the Skinwalker's real name. And in that case, say you were a Skinwalker, Tom, I would have to go out to where you are nearby, where you're within earshot, and I'd have to say, Tom Franklin, you are a Yee Naaldlooshii. And by doing that, I'd be taking away your powers.
Wow.
Yeah, by knowing its name, you're taking away its power. The third and final way is you can defeat it physically, but you have to shoot it right in the neck with a bullet that's covered in white ash. So think about how close you would have to get to do this. You'd have to get incredibly close, and it's not recommended.
That's interesting because the Navajos don't. I would imagine this is Navajo. What you're telling me, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How long have they had bullets in their tradition?
Right. I mean, they use arrows too. So if you took the arrowhead and you made sure the white ash was on there, you would have to get it right in the neck. You couldn't get it any other place because it's not going to affect it. But in the neck,
sounds so much like the werewolf with the silver bullet to the heart. You know what I mean?
That's another thing, Tom, is like all these legends from across the globe, werewolves, vampires, they're all somewhat tied together, silver, holy water, all of it's tied together for some reason. Okay. And to me, that's
interesting.
There was some kind of spiritual power going on. And the ancient civilizations, they knew this. Okay. They did not lose touch with magic. Like we all have. We've lost touch with magic because of cell phones, computers, tablets.
Before that, before that.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of closed ourselves off to it, but these people were more in touch with it than we will ever be. They knew the earth, they knew the world around them better than we ever will. So when they said, this is what you use to stop this, they were serious. They had to use it at one point to stop something. So I think people can't discount it and be like, oh, that's just folklore, that's fairy tale. No, that's factual. That's what they used at one time. So you have to take that, hold it as fact, and just be prepared. Be ready in case you ever run into these things.
What happens to the victims who, lock eyes and now they're puppet? Other than that, what happens to them? Do they get gaunt and sick, or what happens to them?
That depends on the Yee Naaldlooshii, what they want to do with that person. Sometimes they'll have it, have that person go off and do self-harm. Sometimes they'll have that person harm others. And then, because when you're possessed, who's going to believe that it's somebody else controlling you? You know what I'm saying? Right. So if you were to get arrested and you're like, oh, well, it wasn't my decision that did it, it was somebody controlling me. In today's day and age, nobody's really going to believe that very easily. They're going to be like, yeah, right. Something took over your mind and made you do this. Yeah, no. So it's a perfect ploy. It's a way to do what you want to do, to harm who you want to harm without the blame being on you.
Yeah, it sounds like a witch and also some type of demon at the same time.
It's evil.
There's a possession element, and there's also a possession of like potions and powders and like incantations and stuff. That is fascinating to me. So what is your plans to do with all this knowledge? You continue to write, or maybe reach out to other tribes, or what is your plans?
Oh, I'm always reaching out to different tribes, but after these two initial books, I'm actually going to do separate books where I cover the mythologies and the creature lore from each tribe in the States.
So that's cool.
The third book that I'll be doing, following the Wendigo and the Skinwalkers, I'm going to be covering the Cherokee mythologies. I'll be covering their take on Bigfoot, their take on the Dogman, the Raven Mocker, the Little People, the spiritual stuff like ghosts and phantoms. I'll be covering all that, but I'll be telling it using their dialect and their lingo.
That's so freaking cool, dude. I don't think there's anyone doing that I know of.
There's really not, but I did notice that more people are starting to take a really strong interest in it, and that makes my heart feel so good, Tom. That makes me so happy that people are taking an interest. I'm like, yes, it's about time. Thank you.
I'm talking to Chris Kramer, and they're called. They didn't want to do this for a long time. They were like, hey, I just seen him one day, and I wrote him, and we actually talked before he came on, and then I had another gentleman of his come on, and they're called the Arizona Four. So I don't know if you know them. They go up to the Mogollon Rim.
Yes.
And there is a lot of orb action up there. There's a lot of mind speak. A lot of like being healed.
Yep.
A lot of strangeness going on in the world. So I makes me wonder how far away that is from the Navajo Nation and things of that nature. I'm just piecing together in my mind.
I tell people that all the time, that Arizona is a very spiritual place, because you got the Mogollon Rim, but you have the Superstition Mountains, okay?
Right.
And tribes will tell you that you have to be super careful when you go into the Superstition Mountains because there's spirits there. There's energies there that can either be good for you or bad for you. It all depends on your intention. So when I go out, I always have William do a blessing for me. I'll go out there and I'll make sure that the land itself knows I mean no harm. And I'll bring raw tobacco. I'll bring an offering of tobacco, of sage, sweetgrass, and I'll leave it on a rock or something. And I'll tell the spirits or anything within earshot, I'm not here to disrespect you. I'm not here to harm you. I'm here to see what I can learn. And I've had no problems thus far. So
nothing following you home or anything crazy like that?
No, not yet. Knock on wood. But
not yet. Man, I appreciate, it went by quick.
It did. It really did.
And we're definitely going to be in touch because I enjoy these conversations. Due to so many things, this is basically, I don't know. I think I'm gonna call it maybe something like what is a skinwalker? Because you showed me so much that I didn't know. That's
my mission. See, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. Is I want people to know what they really are, not what social media has made up, not what the horror movies have made them think it was. I want people to know the actual indigenous stories, the beliefs, the cautions that they talk about when they talk of these things. I want people to be careful. I don't want them to go and mess with things that they don't understand.
Right. I think it's a great message to put out there, man, because there's so many things that I don't know I think it's always been there, but I think the internet has brought it more to the forefront. I think people, it's not so, what's the word? like it's not so underground anymore. People are more
Right.
willing to speak about these things, and I think we need, instead, like, the sensationalization of things is kind of bugs me a little bit, you know.
Me too. Me too.
You know, just like you were saying, TikTokers going out there, so you don't know what you're getting into. And I think people need to be safe. I mean, you hear dogman stories of, like, people being offed and people being, like, partially eaten, and you're like, what is all this? And people are just going out there willy nilly, the 411, and people disappearing, and it's a big giant mystery. And I do love the approach that you're using, and I do love your enthusiasm in it, and I do really appreciate that you came on today to share this information with me.
My absolute pleasure, man. Anytime you want me on, you just hit me up and I will come on with bells on.
All right, buddy. Yeah, dude. One more time, tell everybody where they can either find you or contact you, or to get, maybe, if another podcaster wants to get a hold of you.
Okay, well, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Just look up Ryan Paul Tremblay. You'll know it's me because you'll see all the different monster pictures. I talk about Godzilla and all the indigenous folklore. So you'll know me right when you find me. Hit me up. I mean, if you want to just talk and ask questions, I don't have to be on a show. I love conversation. I love talking to people. I love helping to educate people. So if you just want to meet a friend that knows this stuff, hit me up.
Yeah, but and whenever your books do come out, please do me a favor, and then I can go backlog and go ahead and put the links in here, and make sure you also send me any of your links that you want to send me, and make sure you send me your your bio and things of that nature. It's kind of like, it should be in the green room that we're talking about right now, but why not?
Okay, I can do that. I will definitely send you some stuff for sure.
I appreciate that you came on so much today, dude. Remember,
pleasure,
guys. Dude. Yeah, remember, we are the eye. We are aware. Love you all.